Coming up on Good Morning Wyoming, Wyoming's only death row inmate may have a new defense. Find out what the psychiatrist who initially evaluated him is saying now.
Plus, test scores for students in Wyoming are going in the wrong direction. Find out how the new director of the State Education Department plans to turn things around.
And that forecast looking a bit cloudier out there with cooler high temperatures than we have been seeing. I'll break down the full weather forecast for you. Good Morning Wyoming starts right now.
You're watching Good Morning Wyoming.
Well, good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. How are we doing today, Xavier?
It's almost Friday. That's all I could say.
One more day. Well, we have quite the show today. We have 2 interviews as well as John being live.
John is live right now.
At Qdoba.
Right, he's on the patio, right?
He's on the patio, yep. He'll be giving us some live weather updates throughout the entire show.
So it should be fun, is what you're saying.
It will be a fun show. I'm excited about it.
Who do we have coming in for you to interview?
Well, we have a doctor from Wyoming Medical Center who's going to come in and talk to us about what the causes and effects of uranium mining
that's cool.
have caused people, as well as the Allegiant Air Dodgeball organizer.
Now, I don't know if you knew this, but we were trying to get a little competition going between us and then our counterpart there at 13. A little dodgeball competition. We played softball. We were trying to get a dodgeball game to go, but I don't think it ever happened. I think it just fell through.
Yeah, I think dodgeball would be a lot of fun, though.
Did you ever play dodgeball when you were a kid?
I did. In high school, we had a couple of fundraiser dodgeball tournaments, too, that were kind of like this one.
Were you like the Dodger, or were you more the I'm going to crush you with this ball?
I was definitely more the Dodger.
Okay.
I dodged around, and I kind of throw like a girl, so I was never really the annihilator.
That makes sense.
But I was still a good team member.
Okay, right on. Well, I think now we're going to go ahead and check in with John Trable right now with our first weather check of the morning.
Good morning, John.
Good morning, guys. And yeah, it's a beautiful morning out here at Qdoba right now. If you are in the mood for a breakfast burrito, Qdoba is the place to be. It'll be opening up officially at 6:30. We're standing out here this morning on their patio, the mountain behind me, the sunrise starting to come up over the horizon, and a pretty cool start to the morning for the most part across the Cowboy State. Now, yesterday we did see temperatures just under that 90-degree mark here in Casper with a high at 89 degrees, or normal at about 88 degrees, so pretty typical temperatures. And to start off the morning this morning, temperatures out there just a touch cooler than they were yesterday, at about 2 degrees cooler than we did see yesterday across the Cowboy State right now. But into the afternoon, we'll be looking at temperatures likely even cooler than that, with cloudy conditions building from the southwest across the state today. Yesterday, we did see some severe weather in southeastern Wyoming in the form of thunderstorms that developed and isolated cells that were a little bit strong out there. But today, we're looking at that rainfall chance here in Casper, certainly a little boosted from what we saw yesterday. A current temperature of 54 degrees. What's it looking like into the afternoon? Well, I'll tell you more about that coming up.
Thank you, John. Well, topping news today, there is new evidence in the case against Wyoming's lone death row inmate, indicating that he suffered from mental illness.
Dale Wayne Eaton's new legal team discovered information regarding Eaton's background and family medical history. Psychiatrist Dr. Kenneth Ash evaluated Eaton 10 years ago before his state court trial. Ash testified yesterday in federal court in Cheyenne, saying the evidence points to a mental illness called bipolar II. He says people who suffer from this illness may have periods of depression and intense activity. A federal judge is carrying out a multi-week hearing based on Eaton's claims that he didn't get an adequate defense before receiving the death penalty in 2004 for the 1988 rape and murder of Lisa Marie Kimmel.
And a man arrested for allegedly beating another man's head into the pavement is charged with aggravated assault. The assault took place near the soccer fields on Bryan Stock Trail in Casper. Police say 30-year-old Thomas Phelps attacked a man he was led to believe broke into his apartment. Phelps' wife was present at the time of the alleged attack, and according to her statement, she had arranged meeting the victim to sell him marijuana. According to court documents, a witness saw the man police believe is Thomas Phelps hit the victim multiple times, rifle through his wallet, and throw it back at him. Phelps is also charged with robbery. He faces up to 10 years in prison for each charge. And in other news, Campbell County records have been released showing that since his start in the Senate in 1996, Senator Mike Enzi has made a few late tax payments on his home in Gillette. Enzi and his wife, Diana, were late on property tax payments on their home in Gillette in 1999, 2000, and 2008, and paid interest on the late payments. Enzi is facing challenger Liz Cheney in next year's Republican primary. Records show Cheney and her husband also were late paying property taxes on the Teton County home they purchased last year.
And Wyoming's First Lady says underage drinking is an epidemic in the Cowboy State. Carol Meade, along with the Wyoming Department of Health Prevention Management Organization and others, are teaming up to address this issue. Meade says underage drinking is a leading factor in the top 3 causes of death among youth in Wyoming and says it is an epidemic that must be addressed. Between 2008 and 2012, 78 Wyoming 15 to 24-year-olds died in alcohol-related car accidents. In the campaign, Mrs. Meade encourages the public to join in the efforts of talking to kids in the state about the dangers of underage drinking. Dr. Wendy Brond with the Wyoming Department of Health says young brains are especially vulnerable to alcohol because they are not done developing, which could lead to permanent damage in their futures. And in other news, as a part of her Children's Issues initiative, our First Lady Carol Meade continues to emphasize the importance of healthy lifestyles among children, including avoiding risky behaviors like drug and alcohol use. And switching gears here, throughout the past week, we've told you about extra precautions people need to take now that at least 2 cases of West Nile virus have been confirmed in Wyoming. This morning, K2's Michael Severn reports on what domestic animals are also at risk of getting this disease.
With 2 confirmed human cases of West Nile virus and countless mosquitoes swarming the state, many people are worried about not only protecting themselves, but their furry friends too.
Dogs and cats, we've not found that they seem to contract the disease or become ill from mosquitoes that could be infected with it.
But while felines and canines are not affected by West Nile virus, horses are a different story.
As far as the symptoms in horses, it's typically neurologic symptoms, varying degrees, ataxia, stumbling, sometimes laying down, as well as acute death. So it is a disease that can be fatal in horses.
With so many horses in Fremont County, which is a hotbed for West Nile virus, there has been some cases reported in the past.
There's been no positive cases that we've had here at our clinic this summer. I do know of one last year. That horse did survive.
Unlike humans, horses can be vaccinated for West Nile virus and other mosquito-borne diseases.
There's Eastern, Western, and Venezuelan equine encephalitis, so a brain inflammation infection, and those can be carried by mosquitoes as well. A common vaccination has those diseases, part of it, as well as with West Nile and tetanus.
But if a horse does contract West Nile, it's not all lost. There are plenty of supportive treatments available.
If they're not drinking, then an IV fluid and hospitalization should be instituted, making sure that they're able to get up and not hurt themselves. It just really depends on how severe their symptoms are.
Reporting in Fremont County, I'm Michael Severin, K2 News.
And Wyoming students have scored lower across the board on this year's statewide assessment tests. The state assessment director says next year's test will be made even harder to reflect new, tougher standards imposed by the legislature. Rich Crandall, who is in the new appointed director of the education department, says the more rigorous requirements will ultimately benefit Wyoming students. K2's Jim Tarabokia has more on what Crandall hopes to accomplish in this upcoming school year.
The new Wyoming Department of Education Director, Rich Crandall, is in his 3rd day of work at his new position. Crandall, previously a state senator in Arizona, has a list of accomplishments while in Arizona State Legislature, including chair of the Senate Education Committee.
It's very exciting to be here at the Wyoming Department of Education. It's day 3 today, and so really when you talk about what are the big things that we plan on doing over the near future, we've had some test results come out. We're kind of flat again. And so the opportunity is to go back and say to the districts, okay, what are your goals? Where do you want to go the next several years? And then what can we do as a department to make sure we have the expertise, the talent to support you as you move forward toward your goals?
Crandall has also said he is also willing to look at other systems that have worked in other states and put that in effect.
If we find out somebody is just knocking it out of the park, we can go to them and say, hey, how are you instructing kids to where you're getting such incredible results?
Crandall has expressed his focus and interest on pushing the department forward and improving the education of children.
One thing we've learned about academic achievement across the United States is that rarely do you get that one-year spike And if you do, it's often followed by a second-year decrease. Wyoming, in my opinion, is poised to be the one state that really starts to make some incredible, significant gains. Technology is going to be a part of it. Teachers, I love that we have national board certified teachers. I think we're the third highest percentage in the country thanks to the foundation that funds that.
Reporting from Cheyenne, Jim Tarabokia, K2 News.
And we're going to take a look now at what's going to be on your K2 Evening News. Good morning, Allie.
Good morning, Brittany and Xavier. Well, most of us are familiar with the term house flipping. We've seen it on the shows. We see people doing it for hobbies. We'll take an in-depth look at one man in Casper who is doing just that, house flipping for a living. For that story and so much more, join us on the K2 News at 5. We'll see you then.
And still ahead in this half hour on Good Morning Wyoming, Xavier, the cost of bacon is on the rise. We'll give you the details when we return.
Plus, we'll have a look at your statewide weather forecast. John Strable is standing by on the patio at Qdoba. Stay with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Live from the K2 studios in the heart of Wyoming, this is Good Morning Wyoming. With Brittany Moore, Xavier Walton, and weather with John Strable. K2, Wyoming's only